So what else don't we probably know about Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door? Well, some people think the Slogo badge is pointless and useless, but it's not. It can be used to more easily traverse this spike room in the Palace of Shadow. Even more so in the remake, because in the remake, the sides of the spikes don't hurt you. See? It's more efficient to wear 3 Pretty Luckies than it is to wear 1 Lucky Day badge. Additional Pretty Lucky badges are not that hard to find. You can get them from bandits and Spanias of all kinds. Speaking of bandits, if a bandit steals something of yours, you can just as easily use Ms. Mouse's Kiss Thief to steal it back. Oh yeah, and here's video evidence that bandits do have Pretty Lucky badges that they hold on to and or drop. Use Kiss Thief to steal it from them. As you can see here, the Lucky Start badge really is impractical compared to the Slow Shroom, the Gradual Syrup, Flurry's Dodgy Fog, and the Zap Tap badge. There is a strategy that you can use to use more items in a single turn without the Double Dip P badge. It involves Goombella's Rally Wink. It is a strategy I developed myself while playing the game. The basic idea is that Goombella gives Mario her turn using Rally Wink, and Mario uses each of his turns to Double Dip. This allows Mario to use more items across both of his turns. Feel free to pause the video here to get a good look at everything. This trick is more expensive in flower points, but it does save you a lot of badge points. I would recommend comboing it with flower saver badges, as well as other items and badges that save and restore FP. For those of you running Danger Mario, this is how good stacking close call badges gets. And I would personally like to thank JDAster64 for his contributions. And I can very much say the same for Danger Mario having multiple Last Stand badges stacked with him. In the middle of Chapter 7, while you're looking for General White, if you talk to the small toad in Petalburg, he will tell you that he's been playing Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door like crazy, which is this game. That practically makes him sort of omniscient to this entire game, doesn't it? After you talk to every NPC that will mention General White, if you go back to Far Outpost and talk to the mayor before you go into General White's house, you can see General White come out of the house for a moment while you are talking to the mayor. For those of you who didn't notice while I was talking, here's a close-up. Let's all be thankful the remake mitigated this level of backtracking and then some. It's common knowledge in the remake that if Mario or his partner get hit, enemies will laugh at him. But did you know that the same thing is true with Bowser, who's not a common enemy but one of the game's bosses? There is a plot hole in the game's story that I noticed while I was watching my good friend Master of Worlds' playthrough of the original version of this game. In Chapter 7, when you enter the fortress with Vivian, Vivian seems to think it's a suspicious building. She doesn't seem to recognize the building at first. If you reach the cutscene before the Chapter 7 boss, if you have Vivian out, like every other partner, she will imply that she didn't know that Peach was being held at the fortress. It's possible Vivian never saw the outside of the fortress since she and her sisters used the teleporter to get to and from it, so it's okay to assume that she didn't know the fortress's location. However, the dialogue during the first Peach segment between chapters 1 and 2 seems to imply that Vivian did know. It implied that she was in the know, along with the rest of her sisters. She knew Peach was being held at this fortress despite not having that knowledge later in the game. This is because it was Beldam who kidnapped Princess Peach and took her away to the fortress. It's heavily implied that Vivian was in on everything. So for Vivian to only know as much as Mario and the rest of his partners upon joining him just doesn't make sense and is clearly a big plot hole in the game. She would have known better than that since she was one of the bad guys up until Chapter 4. But somehow, this plot hole completely flew over the heads of both the players and the developers. If you agree with this, or if you have some sort of counter-argument you'd like to share with me, please feel free to post it in the comments below. Vivian could have also told Mario and his friends everything she knew up until that point once she joined him. Now you guys have something else about Vivian to talk about besides her gender. Go crazy! In the original game, you need 3 card keys to go forth in Exnaut's Fortress. If you go all the way to sub-level 4 and enter Peach's room and go into the shower, there is an Elite X-Naut hiding behind the shower curtain. But in the remake you need 4 card keys, and the 4th card key is held by that same Elite X-Naut. The game even has a whole cutscene around him. You also can't deal a first strike, but that's okay. In Parsley Sanctum, the second fake crystal star that Pennington said he was going to put on the pedestal isn't there until the last Bowser segment. Also, the window gets broken again. Anytime Mario is at the Sanctum, the fake crystal star is missing and the window is broken, so this cutscene was done specifically to keep both of these things the same. The only other question regarding this scene is how the Paragoomba found out that Mario got the last crystal stars before he even left the moon. That is up to fan interpretation. The dead Koopa in Hooktail's castle that is supposed to be Kolorado's father has a name. It's Corvallis. Corvallis is one of the 4 answer choices during the Creepy Steeple Boost quiz in the Switch remake. Similar to how Kolorado sounds like the state of Colorado, Corvallis is actually a city in the state of Oregon. In the Japanese version, his name is Richard. According to Mario Wiki, Richard is the file name used for Colorado's dad in this game, and the English localization changed Richard to Corvallis. If you are idle long enough during the Peach intermission, Peach will fall asleep, and the same is true for Bowser's intermissions. But only in the remake. In the original GameCube version, Bowser doesn't fall asleep at all, while Peach does. Has anybody ever waited for this sort of thing to happen? If you go into Mayor Dower's house during the second half of Chapter 4, you will find Dupless Mario and all of your partners. In the original game, they're just standing around and Mayor Dower is thankful, but in the remake you can see that Mayor Dower made them a feast. Actually, the feast is also there in the original, but in the remake, all the characters are standing around the table, so it's easier to notice. The burn status effect is also much more powerful than you think. After Bowser and Kamikoopa crash through the roof in the Palace of Shadow, if you hack the game to return to Gloomtail's room, you will find a huge hole in the secret area behind Gloomtail's room. It takes you exactly back to where Bowser was, which means Bowser crashed through that room to get there. As you can see, the material from the debris matches the material of the room. In the original game, during the scene when everybody's rooting for Mario to beat the Shadow Queen, when it gets to Glitzville, you can see a shady Koopa who's supposed to be King K because he speaks like King K, but it's actually the other character Shellshock instead. This was a mistake. The character was meant to be King K, but they accidentally used the wrong color Koopa for this scene. Thankfully, this mistake was fixed in the remake. And that's everything I was able to find. But that's not all. Click here if you want to learn even more things about Thousand Year Door that you may not have known. Happy gaming!